underestimate
the power
of a single
conversation.
It could change your whole life.
INCRadio Chatline.
conversations that matter.
Hey everyone, thanks for tuning in to Chatline. I'm Tony, and today we're talking about, are we too used to now? And when we say that, I don't mean like right now, but kind of, because we're talking about delayed and instant gratification in the age of like urgency and everything having to be like, let's do it now, let's get food now, let me DoorDash that thing, that dinner now, let me Amazon Prime that thing now. It's really easy to kind of just get the things that we want nowadays, right? Melvi and Arnie, I feel like there's so much that you can just like whatever you want. You could just have either the next day or within the hour or within half an hour. No?
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah.
Especially food.
especially food. That one is the convenience, the biggest convenience. I'm guilty of that. Just because, sometimes when you don't want to leave, you're just like, it'd be nice if I could just, but it gets expensive, right?
Yes,
it gets expensive after.
That's why I hesitate nowadays because I like to look at some, on the display on the aisle, like you go grocery shopping, and then they are there for a reason. They're placed in there specifically for a purpose,
Right?
to attract you, right? So that's why we call it impulse buying. But sometimes I can't help myself. That's my instant gratification, and there are times now I have to think twice about it just because everything is indeed getting really expensive too. How about you, Arnie?
So for me, it just depends on what it is. I'm the type that if I see something, yes, I do want it, I will go get it right now. That's my whole thing. But I'm also the type that kind of needs to see what I'm buying, kind of a thing. So it's the whole DoorDash and Amazon thing. Sometimes that doesn't really work for me. And especially like with DoorDash, I see how much they're charging.
Right.
But if I just get in my car and go to the restaurant, it's not going to be as much.
Mm-hmm.
But I think it just all depends, I think it all depends.
Okay, so let's break it down a little bit. Gratification is kind of a big word, but it's basically like us being satisfied with different things, right? So there's the spectrum of thing of like the instant versus delayed. So what stuff gives you like instant gratification? Like what are things that just makes you happy like that?
Chocolates.
Ooh.
Yeah, I was gonna say sweets. She got it right. Yes.
Right? When you have that craving, you want it instantly. Like you don't want delayed gratification if you want chocolates. You want it right now. So things like that. Things that you just crave right away. You don't want to wait till later.
Okay. Are you guys the type to like give into your cravings most of the time?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. like after I'm done eating my especially like after I'm done eating my chocolates, I'm gonna crave for something salty. So I'm gonna go find something salty and eat it right then and there. So it's
That's the benefits of adult life, right?
Exactly.
Yes,
but the downfall of that being adult life is if you didn't go grocery, then you don't have anything.
True. Melvi, you were saying something earlier. For you, coffee. Oh yeah, also guilty.
I gotta have my coffee. It doesn't matter how it will be, iced, hot, cold, machine, no machine. I mean, we have instant coffees now too, so I prepare various things just in case I run out of one from the other. So I always have to do that every day, unfortunately. But at least I do my best to just have it in the morning.
Okay. I'm not good at drinking the instant coffee. I feel like it gets too intense because I'm not good at measuring it out. So when it's always I'm like, oh, this is too intense, and then the next time I'll be like, oh wait, this is too like this doesn't taste like anything. Never mind.
Trial and
Yeah, I don't trust myself. I don't trust it. But that does remind me of like the development of like you have the typical brewed coffee, but then like Keurig and all those the pod things became like a really big thing, and then we all know Starbucks. That's always all that good stuff keeps us I guess craving for more. Aside from like food stuff, is there anything else that gives you? Are you guys a shop like? We mentioned Amazon earlier. Are you shoppers? Are you like online? Are you chronically online shopping?
I used to, but not anymore.
Mm,
I've now developed the habit of just if I need it, then I will. I mean, there are times if I do have some, let's say, extra funds to spare, then yes, I would definitely treat myself because we all work hard for every penny that we earn. So I
Right.
think that even if you do it once in a blue moon, there's nothing wrong with that. Now, if you spend recklessly, for example, and you basically spend more than you earn, then we're in trouble. So
I'm not really a shopper. Normally, when I shop, it's normally for my nephews or for somebody else. But sometimes I do shop for things that I see, and I'm one of those that I'm not one of those who puts it in a cart and tries to think about it. If I'm thinking about it right now and I want it, I will go ahead and get it. Now, there are downfalls to that because sometimes, there's that buyer's regret kind of a thing. And I don't like to go out of my way to go return stuff. So then I just end up keeping it. But I'm not the type to like, well, let me put it in my cart and let me think about it. Because if I'm thinking about it right now, that means I want it. So I'm just going to do it.
I do the opposite of you. I'm like cart. And then
Mhm.
I'll choose, okay, which one do I really, really, really need and want from here? And then I start deleting one by one. And I start getting sad.
No, because if I put it in my cart, what's going to happen is I'm not going to buy it. So if I really want it, I'm just going to buy it. But I'm not really like an online shopper because I'm the type that still wants to see things, especially like when it comes to clothes. It's like I have to be able to try it on. I don't know how people could buy clothes online. So I still have to try it out and all that stuff. And so even with just things, I tend to want to go to the stores and buy them. The only time I will use like online is if it's way cheaper than what I would have gotten if I went online. So that's the only time, to the store. That's the only time. Otherwise, yeah, I have to physically see it and touch it and all that stuff. And I think that's what makes that instant gratification worse because now it's in your hand and now you're at the store. So all you have to do is go and check out and actually get it. So.
Have you ever fallen in line and you're like, nah, I don't need it.
Yeah. Yes. Really?
Minute.
Never.
Like, okay, I've got 5 items. And when I look at it again, you know what? I just need 3 of these. So I feel bad when I tell the cashier, I'm sorry, I'm not going to get these 2 anymore. Can you help me just return them? And I feel bad.
It's happened a few times, but it's not, and that's usually when the line is long and it gives you time to think about it. But if the line's not long, I'll just do it. And, I'm that person, the person you don't like if you work at the stores, because I'm not going to bring it all the way to the cashier. If I'm still like in line and there's like a table there or something, I just leave it there or on the rack or something that it doesn't even belong. But then that's where I'll put it.
Man, shopping with you guys would be an interesting experience.
I'm not a big shopper. Like I don't take forever to shop. I go in, get what I need and leave. I'm not like my sisters who could stay in a store forever and just keep walking around and keep browsing and everything. I'm one of those like, you know what you need, you go in there, you get it. And, the harm is when you find other things along the way of what you're trying to get, then you just start grabbing things. But other than that, I'm not the type that's just going to walk around to see what's there and start putting things in your cart that you don't need because you see it.
So you don't do like retail therapy? Like it doesn't like soothe you to like some other people. It's just like I'm in a mood. I'm gonna go.
I think the only place that I go to where I don't have plans of purchasing anything that I know I'm just going to walk around is Costco. Because I
Mm,
do that because it's so big and that's like my exercise for the day. Because I would rather walk around Costco than walk around my block. And so I'll just walk up and down the aisles. I don't even have a cart with me. That's how I know I'm not shopping. But then,
smart.
of course, when you walk around and you see something, I end up grabbing it. But that's my cure also for the whole instant gratification thing, so that I don't get too much stuff. I don't grab carts. Unless like it's Fitz grocery, then I know grocery, I'm gonna grab a cart because I know I'm gonna need things. But for everywhere else, I don't grab a cart. So if I can't carry it, then I can't buy it.
Actually, really smart.
And
The opposite.
that's what stops me from filling up a cart and buying random stuff that I don't need.
I do the same thing, Arnie, but you know what? When I go there, it's okay. I need two things: oil and eggs. The minute I grab oil and eggs, then all of a sudden, ooh, what is this? Ooh, what is that? Before you know it, I've got this handful of stuff, and I said, "How in the world did I get? Did I end up with this?" And my budget was only this, so I said, "Oh no, never again." After that, sometimes you just learn the hard way.
I literally have that discussion with my mom every time I go, because typically I'm the one that goes into the store, so she doesn't have to deal with like like the big crowds and everything. So I'll go in there and I'll tell her what I'm buying. I'm like, I'm just gonna get. I literally say this. I'm just gonna get blank and blank. And then I go in there and I come out and she sees the bags and I'm holding. She's like, I thought you said you were just kidding. And I was like, yeah. And then I got. I was
See,
just like,
but
"Oh,
I'm
what is this?"
opposite because that's a deterrence. If somebody's waiting in the car, I literally will just go get what I need and not buy the extra stuff because I feel bad that they're waiting in the car for me.
Oh,
You know,
I still speed through.
That's what ACs are for, right? Your heater.
That panic is in the back of my head. I'm just like, oh yeah, mom's waiting. I need to do this faster. But I want all these things.
You know what? But Arnie gave me a brilliant idea when it comes to Costco. I don't like going there, but it gets really hot in the summer here. So I think I'm just going to get my steps inside Costco without trying to
It is-
purchase. But just try the samples. Usually they always give us samples, right? So might as well take advantage of that.
yeah.
I don't
It
like
used to be the mall, you know, but
Mm.
I don't have a mall near me. Costco's much closer, so I'll just do that. But I think if I had a mall near me, I would do the same thing. I would just walk around in the mall. But I think that's more temptation because all of a sudden you have all different kinds of shops that you could enter. And so that would be harder. But normally, like I said, I like the mall because I like to people watch and I like to see the different things that people are doing while they're shopping.
Mm. Okay. What are your thoughts on social media? Would you consider that a form of gratification, instant gratification? Like, does it make you, Arnie? I feel like I know what your answer is gonna. I feel like I know what Arnie's answer is gonna be. You're like, no, not really. It's just like I'm just going for obviously not
No,
cat
not
videos.
really.
What was that?
Yeah, not really.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know. Like, I'll watch things on social media, like when people post things or if there's videos that's on, I will watch them, but it's not like that gives me any type of gratification. I think it's just passing time or it's just entertaining. But I don't consider that as like gratification for me. But that's just me.
Yeah, for
Sorry.
me, it it depends on what I'm I'm looking at. Sometimes it's not, but sometimes my sisters would send me like the funny videos or clips of, their pets or whatever. Now that for me is definitely instant gratification just because when I see something that's humorous and it just gets me through the day. And it's also nice to laugh out loud every once in a while.
But and that's the thing. It's okay to laugh, but does that actually give you gratification? That's the question. You know what I'm saying?
It does.
Doom scrolling, I think.
Not to be mindless scrolling. Now that's different. But if it's something where you can also learn from it. So like I said, it depends on what they're sharing. Now if it's meaningless, then yeah, there's no gratification on that. But if at the end of the video you think, oh wow, I actually learned something from this, even if it's a funny video, it's a funny clip, or it's something relatable. For example, my youngest sister loves to share something with me about funny clips of what sisters do, like, oh, this is the oldest, this is the middle child, this is the youngest, and oldest gets away, or oldest do a lot of things, middle child is whatever, and then the youngest gets away with everything or something like that. And we can all relate from each other, because then she'll share it with me and say, hey, remember when we were kids and we used to do this, or our parents would be like this to each one of us? And I said, yeah, and you got lucky because they weren't so strict with you. But with me, it was like, no, 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 no.
My sisters do the same thing. They'll send things like that. But, and like I said, I get entertained and I think it's pretty cool, but I don't consider it like gratification. And you know what I'm saying? I just think it's entertaining, or I find it funny, but I don't feel like, oh, that this is going to make my day now. You know what I mean? Not like chocolate. Once you eat it, then, you know, oh, you're good for the day. So yeah, yeah.
Okay.
Now we know Arnie's hard to please.
I'm not. It's just it's like I said, I'll get entertained and I'll get happy, but it's not gratification. It's just, okay, that's funny. Oh yeah, okay, that's it.
You know what?
But it's
What's gratifying for me with that is that my sister thought about me. That's why. When I get those messages and she'll say, hey, I just wanted to share this with you because it reminded me of you, and so on and so forth. So when I find something similar, then I send it back to her and say, hey, you were this when you were young, and guess what? You didn't get away with it, or I got away with it and you didn't. And so we start comparing, you know, our past experiences with our parents and how they were with us in different scenarios.
Or maybe because some of the stuff they're sending it sarcastically. So maybe that's why I don't find gratification in it, right? Because you could do that. You could be sarcastic with your siblings because, you know, your siblings, right?
Yes.
So maybe that's what it is.
I feel like the difference between there, like with because I know you kept going back to that, Arnie, about like whether it's gratifying or not. Because when I was like researching this a little bit, it's kind of like what happens to us with instant gratification supposedly is that it's trying to lessen the struggle that you get from point A to point B of like you want something, right? Like you want that chocolate, but you lessen like the ability to lessen the struggle in order to get there. So what do? You buy the instant stuff, or you know you order through Amazon instead of like waiting, right? Or like even like with communication now, it's easier for us to communicate, which is a convenience, right? But it could be a sense of like instant gratification that, oh, you can just send a text message and do all those other things as opposed to having to go to the person and actually see them face to face. So it's kind of like that. So another example that I think like opposite of instant gratification would be like going to the gym, right? That's delayed gratification because you're not going to see your muscles tomorrow. As much as I wish I had my muscles tomorrow, I won't.
Oh yeah, there's no instant results on that one.
There's no instant results on that.
It'll test your patience a lot.
And you know, I'm not all about the delayed gratification.
Yeah.
That's why I don't go to the gym.
What if it was instant, Arnie? Would you go?
maybe, but you know, because there was a time where I went to the gym every day and nothing happened, and I'm like, what's up with this? So I'm like, I'm done, you know. No.
Maybe you should give it a try again this time. Maybe the result will be different. No.
Yeah. I mean, there was a time where I was going only because, you know, when you're stressed out, so you weren't really looking for gratification. You were just more looking for a stress reliever or something to get your mind off of things. And then that's when I would do it. You know, and then of course there was a time I was going just to see who's working out in case there was any blue-eyed blonde hair working out there, right? And But after a
I
while, I'm
was
like,
waiting for that. I was really waiting for that.
see, but after a while, there's like nobody there, and then you don't see anything. So I'm like, why do people work out?
Oh, but wouldn't it be gratifying if you do meet somebody or they would befriend you or get to know you? But I don't think that's the setup for meeting people.
Well,
I
I
think
know a lot of people who met at the gym. See, but here's the bad thing for me. This is why I'm kind of glad I didn't meet anyone at the gym, because if you meet someone at the gym, then they're gonna think, oh, you're a gym rat too, right? You're gonna work out all the time, and if they realize I don't work out on a regular basis, they might get upset.
yeah, they'll start looking for you. Arnie, where you at?
The judgment.
Yeah.
Oh man. Yeah. It like I said, I am on and off when it comes to that. Only now that I've started being consistent again after what my coworkers and I did with the 30-day challenge for the month of April. So
Nice.
yeah. Some of them were gratified and continued, and some unfortunately, you know, they stopped. So it's but I do my best to encourage them whenever I see them at work. I said, come on, at least do it. You don't have to do it every day now. We're done with the challenge. Just do it when you have time, but at least don't stop. Because a lot of them also, realize how important it was. And it can open up your mind because, as we get older, it gets harder.
Yeah.
And so we have to take extra care of ourselves. Like,
I'm so
for
glad that
example,
you said that,
sleep.
Molly.
Huh?
You know
I'm
what?
like happy you said that, but I'm also sad that you said that.
I didn't make it to the 30-day challenge because, when you're competing against guys, I don't know, they tend to lose weight faster than women do. And so when you're doing like a follow-up after 1 week and this guy's already lost a whole bunch of weight and you only lost 1 pound, I'm like, yeah, there's no way I'm going to win. I'm done. And so I don't make it to 30 days. Because I'm only going to do it if I'm going to win. I don't like to lose, and so if I know I'm going to lose, yeah, I'm not doing it.
But how do you know you're gonna lose? If you tapped out on was it the first, the second day?
What if you
After a
the
week,
last
After a week.
you didn't even give it 2 weeks? So come on, Arnie. I guess we
Yeah.
should do a 30-day challenge over here in Chatline with our
Mm.
listeners and viewers. What do you think?
yeah, you can do all the challenge you want. If I know I'm not winning, I'm not doing it.
Oh, come on.
Is that true with you guys for eating healthy? Like, do you bear through? Because I'm still at times, I'm better now, but like eating vegetables, trying to get myself in the mindset. Because I saw EJ put in the chat there talking about like dieting. Like, are you guys conscious about your food intake with the thought like, yes, this will make me feel better in the future? Or are you just kind of like, whatever?
So for me, I actually did that for a few years, and it wasn't like the whole thing to lose weight or anything, because when I got diagnosed with diabetes, they wanted to give me all kinds of medication. And so I didn't want to take medication. And so I kind of made a deal with my doctor. If I change my lifestyle and my diet and I can get my numbers down, are you okay with that, so that I don't have to take medication? And they said yes. And I actually did it. I did it pretty well. I grew up eating veggies and fruits and stuff like that, so that wasn't a big deal for me. But the whole cutting out rice, cutting out bread and pastas, that was a little bit hard. But when I found alternatives, like let's say cauliflower rice or zucchini crust for your pizzas and stuff like that, when I found alternatives that didn't taste bad, it wasn't too bad. But then, like the whole brown rice thing, I'm like, I can't do that. I would rather have the white rice and suffer than have the brown rice because it wasn't good. And so I was able to do it. And I kept it up for the longest time. So I didn't have to take medication for like 2 years. And then I went on a cruise where they have unlimited food, and that just kind of messed me up. And then so ever since then, it's been different. But like I said, it's, for me, it's not about like the whole losing weight. For me, it was just about the health, because I knew diabetes ran in my family, and I knew that that's something we had to deal with. So I tried to do it without medication, but didn't last that long.
But 2 years, I mean, you have to give yourself credit though, Arnie. Like that's tough. Like to be able to do that for at least I would still give yourself kudos for.
Mhm.
Yeah, and you know, because the whole thing was you just had to do more proteins, and so I was used to, like I said, I was used to not, eating just like say seafood, eating fruits and veggies and stuff. I think the one thing that kind of killed me was certain fruits I couldn't have because
Mm.
mango is one of my favorite fruits, but that's really high in sugar, and so I couldn't really have as much mangoes and papayas. But so I learned to have the alternatives of like your strawberries, your blueberries, and things like that, because that you could have as much of you want, but you just really had to watch the intake of certain fruits. But other than that, it was fine. I think the hardest part was no one else around me was doing it. And
Mm.
so when I would see them have pasta, like I could go without rice. That's not a big deal for me. But if I have to bypass pasta, then sometimes I'm like, let me just taste yours. And you can't just taste one pasta, right? So you gotta have a little bit more. But I learned the whole moderation thing where I didn't completely cut it out. I just couldn't have as much as I wanted to. So
Hmm. Good for you. That is hard though because like of course medicine is good to help us and everything, but if there's a way that you could you know uh, tackle something without having to go through that, because I know that can the management meds are always that's always tough. I have a lot of friends who are like that already, so yeah, kudos to you, Arnie. It's just an interesting topic, just thinking about I know gratification just sounds like a big word, but the way that I think about it is like you want results now, like most of the time you want some kind of result now, whether it's something to make you feel good or you're like when you're I think now about how, because I didn't grow up with it with chat gpt or with ai, that instant of like you want to be able to do well in your exam, so I'll just plug in the stuff that I need for the answers to be able to get it so that I can but then you don't retain as much because you don't go through the struggle of trying to look for the answer, and then you
Oh,
guys.
oh, you mean like in my days in the Stone Age where you
I
literally
didn't.
had
Oh,
to go to
you're
the
calling.
library, right? Where you literally had to go to the library, you had to go to the card catalog to try to find what you're looking for,
Yeah.
and if you wanted to figure out stuff, you had to go to an encyclopedia. You couldn't Google anything, and so you
Mhm.
literally had to look for all these things, right? See, that is delayed gratification for sure.
I didn't say the Stone Age though. You put yourself. You categorized yourself. That's
But
all you.
no, but it's true though, because when I see my nephews now when they do their homework and they're like trying to figure out, goes, hold on, let me just Google it. And I'm like, these kids have it so easy. I remember, like I said, we had to go to the library because unless you're rich, you can't afford encyclopedias, right? And then the encyclopedias get outdated because now they added more new things. So you got to buy more encyclopedias. And
Mhm.
even just with maps, if we wanted to go somewhere, it wasn't one of those, oh, look, put it in the GPS and you're good to go. It was one of those, open up the big bifold of a map and write down the streets of where you got to turn and where you got to go to get where you're going. So
Mhm.
there's no such thing as instant gratification back in the days, I think.
Heavy resilience building, I feel. But that's
Mhm.
not to romanticize or be too like overly nostalgic in the past, because there's some stuff that does help us that are the conveniences now that do help us. But where do you guys find when the instant stuff becomes too much? Like what's something that you notice in today's time that that idea of everything being instant, when does it look not good for you? Like,
I
maybe we
think
shouldn't.
I mean, it's not for me, but I think I see it in children, right? Because they're so used to having things in the palm of their hands that when they ask for certain things that they can't get right away, they have a very bad attitude because they're not
Mm.
used to,
Mhm.
one, they're not used to no, they're used to everything they want, they'll get right away because, like we said, it's in the palm of their hands. And so when they don't get it, I think they don't know how to deal with it. Or, when you tell them, hey, why don't you go look it up? They're like, no, why can't you just tell me? I'm
Mhm.
like, because it's your homework. I want you to learn, but you know the answer. You could just tell me. And I'm like, yeah, no. I think that's one thing that I see.
Okay. What about you, Melby?
She made a good point between the Stone Age the current era. Because she mentioned a lot of nuggets right there, and she's absolutely right. But I'm in between. It will test your patience, and right before like if you have to go somewhere, you have to print the map. There's no Siri, there's no whatever that you can use instant that would help you reroute. And if you lost your way or you exited the wrong way, you have to pull over and look at your map again or the direction and then figure things out. And with kids nowadays, Arnie's absolutely right. They have the easy access of everything. Everything basically that's given to them is handed to them. So as they get older, they get accustomed to that. And the minute they're either in their early teens or the teenage life or the young adult and even in their 20s, they end up losing patience because they want it like now. Oh, if you give them a job, some of them, like for example, at work, a lot of the young adults, maybe in their early 20s, they get hired. They get good pay rate hourly. They have good benefits. A month later, they quit. Why?
Mm.
Because, they didn't want the delayed gratification. They were trained for a few weeks. They were left alone for a week. A month later, they're like, nope, I'm done. I can't do this without even giving it at
And
least
I think that's
6 months.
how my nephews are, because my nephew thought, oh, money is easy to make, right? And so they would get a job, even though it was with my brother-in-law and their dad, right? They would get a job, and when they don't get paid every day, they didn't like it. They figured they worked today, they should get paid today, right? I'm like, that's not how it works. You will either get paid, every other week, or you'll get paid once a month. The fact that they didn't take money home, and so my brother-in-law, he was crazy because then he would pay them every day. I'm like, don't pay them every day. They got to see what it's like to work hard and see how little they make at the end of the week. But my brother-in-law, he would give them more than what they needed. I'm like, dude, you don't even pay regular people that way. You shouldn't do that because, they need to realize what real life is, right?
Yeah, nowadays they get paid. Sometimes you're right, Arnie, daily. I had to get my allowance a month. I had to earn it like after a month. And my parents were getting paid every 2 weeks. I said, why can I get it every 2 weeks? Because you need to learn how to do ABC, XYZ, and we want to see your effort for the whole month to earn your allowance. I said,
see, you're lucky you got allowance. We never got allowance. So we had a lot of chores. We had to cook, we had to do laundry, we had to clean the house, and that wasn't for any allowance. So we got no gratification at the end. Now, I think that's one example of delayed gratification, because I had to do all that as a kid and I did not find gratification in it whatsoever. And then when I moved away to college and I had to live on my own, that's where I was grateful, because now I knew how to cook. Now I knew how to do my laundry. I knew how to clean. I literally could live on my own and didn't need my mom and dad to take care of me. And that's where I felt gratified, after who knows how many years that happened. And I think that was a good thing. But at the time, no, I did not think that I should have been cooking when I was a kid. I didn't think I should be cleaning. That's your parents' job, right? But the fact that they did that, I think that was what made me happy, especially when I saw other people my age where they went away to college and they struggled. They literally lived on ramen and cup of noodle because they didn't know how to cook, And so I think that was one of the things I was grateful for.
same, even though with allowance.
Yeah.
My delayed gratification on that is if I wanted something, I had to earn it myself. Even if, let's say, I asked them, is it okay if you can buy me this? I say want, not need, right? So my mom would say, you don't need it. Now you have to save for it since you're getting an allowance at least once a month. So I had to work hard to get there, save up. Sometimes I don't even get the stuff that I need or what I need or even want to treat myself until after a year of savings. And then when I started working, I said, "Oh, this is how it feels. It feels good to actually earn your own money and spend it the way you want it, instead of somebody, like grasping it hold and being frugal, which is completely understandable during that time because there were three of us that they had to support, and my mama was working like two jobs at that time and whatever. So I understood, the pain and suffering they also had to go through in order to make it through in life with us, not to be hungry and would have, food and shelter.
And that's why we didn't get an allowance. There was 6 of us, okay? So there's no way they could afford to give 6 kids an allowance. And because prior to the job that I have now, I was making a lot of money. So that whole instant gratification came easy because there was a point where I would go somewhere and I wouldn't even have to look at the price tag and I would just buy it and I was good, right? And then I switched careers where I had great benefits, but I wasn't making a lot of money. And that's where I learned the whole delayed gratification, because I would look at something and I'm like, yeah, do I really need this? I guess not. And I would just put it away. So I think that's a difference also when depending on your status, right? Whether or not it is something you can get right away or whether it's not something you have to work for. So
Do you see that? I know you guys mentioned kids earlier, but do you see that also in adults now with the way that, society has kind of changed with the way that we interact with each other, all the instant stuff? Have you seen that in adults too, where if they don't feel that they're going to benefit from the thing, they just tap out? They're just like, no. I'm
like
not
me,
refuses
no,
to the
but
30-day challenge. She'll tap out.
because there are some things that are it could be preferences, but you know what? Because one thing that I'm thinking of is like one example could be someone pursuing their dreams, right? They want to be in some kind of field, and they end up giving up on it because they can't take the resistance that comes with pursuing it. Like I know there's a lot of people that have tried to do different side hustles, or people are really into the arts and stuff like that, and there's stuff that they want to pursue, but they end up giving up because they're just like, I don't think I can make it past this thing. And I don't know if that's a product of the way that like I said, everything's like super instant now. You can get it as you want. I'm sure that it doesn't affect like the Stone Age adults as much, but I think to some degree it does in some aspects, no? Because I feel like it can be hard to separate that idea of like you're working towards something and you're not getting that benefit now, and you start to ask yourself, well, what's the point in me doing this? Like what would you say would be the, I guess, the force that goes against that for you, Arnie, since you experienced both?
Yeah, so I think for me, like even though I kind of experienced it, I haven't experienced it to the point where I've had friends who didn't have the like the regular career path with getting a job that pays you a salary, right? They went like that. They went into the arts to try to do something, and they tried it for a few years. But eventually they had to give up because there's no way they could support themselves doing that, right? So let's say you decided to go into acting and it didn't work out too well. They tried it for a few years as just struggling actor. And then after that, they just decided to find a different career path. So I have seen that in my friends. And it's not because they just gave up. It's because they wouldn't be able to live. They didn't want to be homeless or anything like that. So that's why they kind of had to be more realistic, I would have to say, and get an actual job. And so things like that. But that's the only thing I've seen. But yeah.
Yeah, it really depends on the situation and the circumstances or where you are at in life, especially where you're living. So like what Arnie mentioned, I definitely agree with that. It's hard to live off of, even if it's your passionate career, you're passionate about it, that career you choose. But if it's not going to sustain your lifestyle, even in the simplest manner, it's hard. And that's why I see even some of my friends or some people I know have 2 or 3 jobs. And even when they're happy about it and they're gratified that they're working, but unfortunately, because of what's going on around nowadays, sometimes one job and even let's say a couple has to even have two jobs each at times. So it really depends. But the thing is, with my experience, is I'd rather try than not try at all, whether it gives me gratification or not. That's just me. That's my personal preference. It's because, it's one of those where I don't want to live in regret. Like, I'd rather, if I end up failing or not liking it or wasted my time at some point, I'm going to continue to just think, okay, how can you just think of it this way, Melody? What did you learn from it?
Mhm.
Don't think of it like it's a waste of time. And I tell young adults this also nowadays, that you just have to give it a chance, but you can't just jump into it after one day you think, I'm done, without even exerting enough effort. I mean, there's so many resources that we can use nowadays, and they're available 24/7, whether if it's online, a laptop or a phone, or even with books. Even when, if you still want to go to a bookstore, there's still available bookstores out there, even in the education world, for example, or at school. So, or mentors out there who can even help us do what we need to do. But yeah, as long as you try and not give up so easily, I think you'll eventually find what really gratifies you in life.
And when you talk about education, I do see where sometimes, people have that aspiration of going to college, and people have that aspiration of wanting to do things, but because, let's say, maybe they can't afford it, then they have to change their major so that they're not in school as long, or they have to settle for, like, let's say a 2-year degree as opposed to a 4-year degree. So I see it's not because they're giving up. It's just because financially maybe they can't sustain themselves to do it. So I see that in education wise. Because for me, when I went off to college, I literally paid for my own tuition and I got scholarships and grants. But honestly, if I didn't have the scholarships, I don't think I would have been able to finish college, because my whole thing was, I did not want to stay home for college. I wanted to go away. But the deal that we made was, if I go away to college, I'm supporting myself. And I was not giving anyone the benefit of the doubt of running back home because I couldn't support myself. So even if I had to work 2 jobs, that is what I did, because I wanted to finish college and I wanted to show people, hey, I can do it. That was my delayed gratification.
Good for you, Arnie. You got some nice stories today, for sure. Your talk about, your journey with diabetes, and then, living, to support yourself through college. It's tough. Like, that's kind of why I was genuinely asking to explore those different sides, because it is a lot of different nuances there to kind of work with it. Like, when is it going to be a matter of the start and then stopping because of XYZ factors, versus, well, you keep going because you know that this thing is going to be good for you. Like when we were talking about earlier with health wise, if you know that you have some kind of, in my family, I have a history of a lot of different things. Diabetes is also one of them. So being conscious and trying to push through with with the healthy eating,
And I think motivation is really important too, to get that delayed gratification, because what motivates you? Are you just doing it because, oh, you just want to do it? Are you doing it for other people? But at the end of the day, it has to be you that's motivating you to do it. For me, what motivated me to stay in school was because I wanted to prove everybody wrong. They said, sure, go ahead, go away to college. You'll be back in a year. And I needed to prove them wrong. I needed them to know that I could leave home, survive on my own, and finished, even though I didn't get to eat a lot, where, I was living on ramen and cup of noodle because that's all I could afford, right? And that's why I was happy when my aunt came to visit, because she would take me to Costco and said, hey, put whatever you want in the cart. And then that's how I would get it. But I think motivation is a big factor, because if there's nothing that's going to motivate you, then it doesn't matter whether it's instant gratification or delayed gratification. I don't think you're going to stick with it. So
I'm glad you mentioned that, Arnie. Motivation is your why for the things that you do, and being aware of it, right? It just makes sense. I just want to read something really quick from the chat. EJ said, I used to very heavily consider, am I guaranteed to benefit from this? But I think that stopped me from giving things a try. I think sometimes you have to give it a try first, and I mean really try. So it's kind of like stopping yourself because you're already concluding that it's not gonna work out.
See, I don't know. For me, it's sometimes I don't look for the benefits.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes I will just look, is this fun? Okay, yes, then I'm going to do it, right? Sometimes I don't think about the long run.
Yeah.
And I mean, there are things like if you know you have to invest a lot of time in it, maybe that's something I would consider, like, what would I get at the end? But then there are times where, like, for example, when I did my career change, I didn't think about the long run. I didn't think about, like, ooh, at the end, I'm going to be broke when it's time to retire, right? I looked at the benefits like, oh, if I switch, I can go anywhere I want, whenever I want. And so that's what I looked at. That's what motivated me to do my career change. But if I were thinking about the whole rational thing of, does it give me good benefits? Am I going to have a good retirement plan when I'm done? Then I think that would have stopped me from doing what I'm doing. But I'm happy I changed career plans because I'm not as stressed as I used to be. And the best benefit ever is I'm free to go anywhere I want, whenever I want, as long as, I got the time. So I think that also has to do with it.
I have to ask you, Arnie, because you did mention it earlier with your nephews. They all kind of vary in their ages. Just given the difference in generations, I'm not calling you old, okay? But just the difference in the generations, how do you try to, I guess, teach them um, the patience versus like immediacy? Like, how do you teach them to be just patient with things in general?
So I think I'm kind of guilty because I'm
Oh
the favorite
no.
aunt. So when they ask for things, I normally will say, okay. Actually, no, back in the days, I think when they would ask for things, I would do the whole you have to earn it kind of a thing. But
Mhm.
then there was a point in my life where I was losing friends or family members, and they would pass. And I just realized that, hey, I could say no to my nephews to teach them a lesson, or I could give in to what they want and I can see how happy they are now instead of waiting. Like I always tease them, right? I always say, hey, don't worry, when I die, you're going to inherit my millions, right? Because I pretend like I have millions, which I don't. And so it got to the point where I'm like, what's the good of making me make them wait until I'm dead before they, could spend my money, right? Because then I'm not going to see the joy that I could bring to them. And so my sisters hate it, every time my nephews ask for stuff, and I'll do it. Like, for example, Mason, who's the youngest one, when he was younger, he wasn't the type that liked to eat out of home. He was always the type that wanted to go out. Even if he's not starving, he just wanted to go out and not eat at home. And so after school, when I would pick him up, he goes, Auntie, I'm really hungry. Can we just go to McDonald's or Taco Bell and get food? And I'm like, it's okay, we have food at home. He goes, Auntie, come on, I'm like starving now. I don't have time to wait, right? So I'm like, I would just do it, just because, like I said, I would rather spend money now and see them happy now, as opposed to me being dead and they inherit my millions and I don't get to see the joy in their faces, And my sisters used to get mad at me for that all the time. But now, if it's like a big item where, they want something very expensive, then, I make them do the legwork. I'm saying, okay, I want you to research. I want you to see like how much it's going to be. And I want you to tell me where I can get it for the cheapest. And then maybe I'll consider, because, if it's something that's $100 versus $200, then maybe that's something I'll do. I go, but if you want something right now for $600, so you better find it, do your research and find it somewhere where you'll find it cheaper. So one, either they'll do the research and find it somewhere cheaper, then of course I'm going to have to be forced to get it for them. Or two, they don't, they're like, never mind, I don't want it. I'm like, see, then you really didn't need it. So yeah.
Putting them through the fire a little bit.
And you know what, the whole stages of life, it's different too, because
Mhm.
Riley, who's older than Mason, he's learned to be a little bit more rational. And so he's not all about, I want it now, compared to the younger ones. And I think just that, like that, the different times has also, it's also different for each child. So.
Mm. I'm glad that you brought up that point though about being able to make them happy now, because I didn't think about that aspect as well, because I feel like everything that we kind of mentioned, like even from the beginning of the show, it kind of ties into just going back to what's important to you, right?
Yeah.
Like what you mentioned earlier, like what are your motivations? Like, is this thing, this instant thing that is going to be in this moment, like what's going to be the result of it? Like, oh, I'm going to make my nephews happy. Like that's a good thing. But then like in your other example, completely opposite, something that it's, you don't want to just spoil them. You want them to kind of feel the work that goes into something that's, buying something expensive, right? Being able
Yeah.
to teach them that thing.
And I think for me, what really changed was I had an aunt. She was the one who was single out of all my aunts, and she was the one who would spoil us. Like, every time we needed something, we would go to her because she didn't have any kids and she can do it. And she passed when she was really young. I want to say she was like in her 40s because she ended up getting cancer. And so her thing was she wanted a Porsche. That was like her goal, was to get a Porsche. And so but she didn't want to finance it. She wanted it to buy it all in cash. And so she worked really hard and she saved her money. And right when she was ready to buy the Porsche was when she got diagnosed with stage 4 cancer. And so of course she didn't buy it anymore because now, life changed. And so when she had passed, she left her money to my aunts and uncles and all that stuff. And so they got to benefit from that. And for me, I'm like, I don't want to do that. I don't want to keep saving up for something that I want to get eventually. And then all of a sudden you can't get it because something happens in your life. That's why with me, people think I'm reckless or they think I'm careless, but I'm not. It's just because, I could put off going on a vacation until I retire. But then if I'm old already and I can't walk and I can't do anything, then what's the use, right? And so I think that changed my mindset a little bit. And that's why for me, it's not about really instant gratification, but I think it's more of what I think I'm going to miss out if I keep delaying things and just delaying it. So I think that's where I come from.
Because it's easy to, I feel like it's easier now to kind of think that, oh, there's tomorrow. There's next week.
I used to be like that when I was a kid. Like I was saving money. I would never spend it because I'm like, no, I need to save for the future because that was what was instilled, right? But then, like I said, and I started thinking, if I die today and I worked so hard for all of this, who's going to benefit? It's not me, right? So at least now when you work hard, I feel like you should indulge and be that person that gets that gratification because you're the one who worked hard for it, not everybody else. And like I said, even if it's just to go to McDonald's to get or to Burger King, my nephew likes the Baja Blast. I was like, okay, I'll do it on happy hour where it's only $1 compared to the $2 or $3, right? Just that he gets so happy he gets a Baja Blast, that's motivation for me. That gives me joy. And so to see them happy. Now his taste has gotten higher. And even before when they would ask for things, I'm like, okay, fine. I'll take you to the Dollar Tree. You can get 5 things, whatever you want, right? Because hey, I could afford it. Now they want more expensive stuff. And I'm like, oh, I'm about to think about that one. So.
But I like that though. I like how our discussion was able to cover a lot of different things because it's not so much to say in asking that question, are we too used to right now? I don't think it's so much as trying to demonize like instant things, but just being aware, right? I think of what you're doing, like how you're going about doing these things, like what's your intention in everything that you're doing, whether it's a matter of making your nephews happy or are you posting something to get the likes because you just want to feel better, like just knowing and understanding where you're coming from, like what you said, Arnie, like where are you coming from when you're doing these different things, whether it's instant, whether it's delayed, and does it go back to what's important to you, like whatever your values are. So nice discussion. Any final thoughts?
With the whole instant gratification thing, for example, if you're really craving something sweet and you put that delayed, then that's not going to make you happy, right? So that's something that maybe you can have right now. But then there are some things that you do have to wait for that delayed gratification, right? Let's say you do want a college degree, whether or not you're going to use that degree, you just want one, then that is something that's delayed because there's no way you're going to get an instant degree, unless you go to this one place in the Philippines that will print out diplomas from whatever school you want, right? But so I think it just depends on what it is. There are some things where instant gratification is great, and there are some things where waiting for the whole delayed gratification really pays off. So I just think it depends on what you're looking for and when, and the importance of it, to determine whether it's something that you need now or something that you could like struggle and wait for later.
Self-reflection, guys. Self-reflection. That's gonna be your best friend. I'm going to self-reflect and probably reward myself with some chocolate after this after this
I'm
broadcast.
going to do ice cream because it's kind of getting hot right now here in Texas, and normally like that I don't eat ice cream as often as I used to, but it's just too hot where I don't even want to cook or anything. So my instant gratification is going to be mint chocolate chip ice cream.
Hey. It
I
does
love
not
mint chocolate.
taste like toothpaste, friends. No, no,
It
no.
does not taste like toothpaste. It is delicious.
Thank you, Arnie. Thank you to Melvi who was with us earlier, and to everyone who's been there chatting in the chat there. Sorry we didn't get to read all of the comments, but we hope that you took away something from today's broadcast. We hope that you gained some perspective on gratification, in whether instant or delayed, seeing results. There, like what Arnie said, there might be times where you need to delay it. There's some times where you can give it to yourself, at that moment, if that's chocolate or maybe nice treat with family, right? So thank you everyone for tuning in. We'll see you again same time next week. This has been Chatline, where we have conversations that matter. Take care, everyone. Bye. Let us know what you're going to treat yourself with after the show. Put it there.